And take a look around the room. Love comes wearing disguises. How to go about and choose. Break it down by shapes and sizes. I'm a man who's got very specific taste. You're just my type. Oh, you got a pulse and you are real. You're just my type. Oh, I think it's time to read. You're just my type. Breathing, I can't help myself but stare. Double check for double meanings. I'm a man who's got very specific taste. You're just my type. Oh, you got a pulse and you are real. You're just my type. Oh, I think it's time to read. You're just my type. You're just my type. Oh, you got a pulse and you are real.
Well, perfect. Hey, folks, thanks so much for joining us for our session today. My goal with this, about an hour that we've blocked with you, of course, we'll try and gift some of that time back to you, is to cover as many interesting ideas as we can and to make sure that you can implement some of them as soon as you go back, without much help from anybody else. More often than not, I see hacks and tricks, being presented, which are hard to execute and don't or might not have an actual impact. So that's not the goal with our session today. The team has been able to put together some interesting ideas for us, about 20, 21 of those. And I'll walk you through them one by one. We've put them all in the document, so no point taking notes. We'll share the document with you as well. And this webinar, should land up on our website at some point. We are recording it, but we don't, go live with recordings very quickly. So I would recommend you to stick around till the end. Because we also have a special something that we'd like to give you for everyone who's running the webinar today. Now, as far as the topic goes, the whole idea behind doing something like this was we have a lot of founders, e-commerce CEOs, marketers that we talk to that are continuously struggling with conversion rate, especially drop-offs from higher up in the funnel. A lot of product ads running on Google, retargeting running on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. So a lot of money being spent on driving demand, but also a lot of drop-offs from the funnel across the board, especially from the product page. So, as I put it, product page is the most important page of your website. That's where it's make or break. That's where you tell a story, because if you don't tell a story, somebody else will, and your customers that is really is important. But with the ideas that we've put together today, I think this is also a mini brand masterclass. Generally we do things which are smaller tweaks to the page, gentle nudges, etc. So we have a couple of those. But a lot of what I'm going to talk about today will probably encourage you or inspire you to look at your website and your brand, with a fresh perspective. So if I'm able to do that, I think I did my job today. As I've put it in the chat, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'll try and address them as I go. I'm moderating the webinar as well as hosting it. So, please, wait while I address your questions. I'm Shekhar, by the way, just a quick introduction. I'm one of the core team members at Convertcart. We've been running a conversion rate optimization powerhouse here for about the last 5 to 6 years. We have more than 500 brands that actively optimize their conversions through us. We do about 700 A/B tests a month, so massive scale, and also a lot of depth, because we've done this for more than 40 industries successfully, and we continue to drive those results. So I'm trying to share some of our learnings, some of our ideas here in our discussion today. I'd say let's just jump right in and kick this off. So we've split this session into two halves. The first one is about homepage. Now, homepage, as I like to see, is very underrated for most businesses. The homepage is essentially a place where you want to make sure that the user has an immediate next step and you're able to deliver your core value prop instantly. So I mean, think about it this way. When was the last time you spent like a lot of time on a website homepage? Almost never. It is essentially a platform, like or maybe like an airport, where you're not supposed to stay there. You're supposed to take your next step, your next path. And that is super important. So we'll focus on the homepage and what you can do as far as improving the homepage UX goes. We'll move to the first idea, which is using white space wisely. It is actually a very, one of the things I especially see marketing agencies recommending a lot, is just stuffing the homepage up with various ways in which you can add CTAs, value prop, messaging, offers, everything in just the same screen. Also, a lot of companies do pop-ups on their homepage within the first 10 or 20 seconds of the user journey. Bad idea. What you want to instead do is think about how you can use white space or space things out or make the experience simpler. In fact, some of the best brands that you might have interacted with, all of them do that. If you look at the example that I have on my screen here, you have the category navbar to engage with on the top that instantly tell you what are the different categories of products that the brand is selling. And then you also have a simple CTA, which is shop new arrival. So in this case, it stands out really well. It's a very simple idea, but I would want you to kind of continue to parallelly think about implementing something like this for your own brand, so that you can put it in action in a way that's relevant to you. One of the other things we've seen is having multiple primary CTAs distracts the user. So try and move away from that. Have just one key primary CTA. In this case, this is a brand that drives a lot of that they keep launching. So for them, it really makes sense to have shop new arrivals as their core CTA. But that's probably not true for somebody else who's probably driving a lot of new demand, in which it could be shop deals, it could be something else. So I'd allow you to kind of figure out what works for you, or also maybe experiment, figure out, what works best for you with a multivariate or an A/B test to kind of put it in action and see what really drives conversions for you. Moving to the next one, one of the things that I see brands not doing well enough, apart from the white space, you want to use color contrast smart enough, and just make sure that, you're doubling down on the Pareto. By Pareto, what I really mean is, for almost everyone on the call here, and we have a bunch of people actually, but I'm sure that about 10 or 20% of your products drive about 80-90% of your revenue. If you're a single or a low number of products website, I'm sure that's obviously even more true for you. So one of the things you want to do is, and I see this businesses doing this a lot, is they try to consistently make inventory move, and especially inventory that doesn't have a trend of moving that much. And I understand that as a business, you want to do that, right? Even for us, we have products that not all of our customers are subscribed to, but we every now and then try to talk to our customers about it. And while that's fine, it's actually counterintuitive to what your business really needs. It's your highest selling products that continue to drive demand for you and are champion products for you. It's like the Popeye's chicken sandwich. That's what drives revenue for them. That's what everybody eats there. So they're not trying to, although they do have call to actions, etc., in the outlet or on their online experience to try and sell their chicken to you, but the primary driver of messaging across the board for them is their chicken sandwich. So you've got to kind of think of it that way. You have a star product, a hero product. Continue to make a hero out of it. Don't neglect it. I already spoke about not doing pop-ups in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the user journey. The other piece that I can tell you about pop-ups is don't do them badly or poorly. One of the things that I think is extremely underrated is revenue per email as a metric not being tracked with companies. So do this exercise with me. No need to get into your analytics immediately, but maybe write this down for yourself. What is your total email revenue? And what is your total active email list, which is people email gets delivered to, right? How many inboxes it actually reaches. When you look at those two metrics, you would figure out what is your revenue per active email. Okay. And that revenue per active email tells you how much more money you make for every fresh email you collect. I was meeting a brand. I'm in New York right now. I met a brand just yesterday, which does jewelry, and they have about 90,000 active emails and about that much revenue, coming from emails each month, about $90,000. And for them, so their active email revenue is essentially $1. So they make $1 for every email in their list in a month. But their email opt-in strategy is actually broken. So they're not adding that many emails each month. And then we kind of worked on the projection for them. We figured they can actually share 3,000 emails each month, 3,000 more active emails each month, which means by the end of the year, their list would have grown by 36,000. And by that token, their email revenue would have gone up that much. So you've got to really make sure your email opt-in strategy is very thought out and it's customer first. So what does your customer really want to hear? What does your customer really want to know? Talk to them about just that alone. And make sure that your pop-ups as well as your copy everywhere else on the website it just pops. So if you see what we're trying to do here is bold, minimal text, just summarize the benefits, talk about benefits, not the features, classic marketing, rule, but just stick to that and focus on making sure that you also implement this across the board as far as pop-ups go. Moving further, time-bound offers work well. Now, I wouldn't complain if you feel your brand does not, want to do this or does not want to make sure, doesn't want to look this way. So that's completely fine. It's a brand call. But FOMO is never a bad idea. So one of the ways in which we do it, even for brands which are premium, is we don't do an offer, right? So we just do a timer. But we run it for shipping. So we just say, hey, if you order in the next 4 hours, 23 minutes, these many seconds, we'll ship it today itself, right? So that way you are bringing in the sense of urgency, giving them a reason to shop today, giving them a reason to stick around while making sure, that you don't look gimmicky with the timer. So, it's an easy fix. But on the other side, contests, timers, there are many ways to do these, but it's extremely important to be on brand and doing it in a way that you don't dilute. So solution for these things a lot for our customers. I'm happy to speak about your brand, with you separately about this. USP, I think, is something that stands. So one of the ways in which I know businesses do their USP, and we've recommended this in previous webinars or conversations, is those, graphic icons saying made in the USA or wherever you are, guaranteed quality, 24/7 customer support, that kind of stuff, right? So that is obviously important. Those are things that your mind will see. You might not actively read them, but when they're there on websites where you shop, you are likely to see the value in something like that. But in addition to that, one of the things you want to do is make sure that you kind of take a step back and rethink copy of the most core value prop your brand represents. I'll give you an example. I was working with a brand in Dubai, which was one of the largest bakeries there, and they did massive volumes for all kinds of bakery products, right? And for them, one really obvious thing that wasn't standing out for their business was they were not calling out where they are in Dubai. And they were downtown. They were in a place which would allow them to deliver within 90 minutes anywhere in Dubai, and that's something they called out, but they didn't say that they were downtown. So we brought that information, front and center. We started calling them the downtown bakery that delivers 90 minutes, something like that, and it really worked because getting a geographical sense of where that business was a very, very key USP for that product, for that business. But that's an example that was relevant to them. This example that you see here talks about just very, very simple, the 15-second smoothie that will change your life. So you're saying it's extremely high quality, so much so that it will change your life, and it will only take 15 seconds to do that. So I think it's also talking about that quick turnaround time. It's very quick to kind of get the product ready, essentially, if you were to use it. So I think quantifying things, using numbers is something that will go a long way. So think about your business and see if you can bring some numbers while showcasing your value prop. Again, you could experiment with all of this. This is another very simple one. IKEA does this. I mean, I really like this example because it's a very relatable brand. I could have, brought some screenshots from client sites, but I wanted to share this because it's more relatable. Very simply, just, it's kind of stupid, but it's interesting, right? Just putting a call to action alone is not going to get the job done. Like in this case, there's an arrow that points to the call to action. Sometimes you would see like a finger, which is, you remember, back in 2003, 4, 5, we used to have those finger icons on really old school HTML websites. So something on those lines, I think it does the job well. We've seen click-through rates go up using things like these. Once again, folks, if you have any questions as I continue to move forward, please put them up in chat or question or the Q&A, but I'll just keep moving so that we are able to cover as much as possible within the next 15-20 minutes. The next piece I want to talk about is categorization. One of the things I see businesses do a lot on their homepage is be extremely image heavy. So they're trying to make sure that the customer falls in love with the brand and the way they do things. And in the pursuit of that, they're enabled to craft a journey that starts the moment they come to the website. We assume people spend a lot of time on your homepage, but that's actually not true. If they are doing that, you must investigate why is it that they're doing that. Because you want your brand and don't take your brand so seriously. So give the customer a next step, a journey. It's like it's assuming that we stand outside brand stores more than we are inside them. That's not true. The moment we see a store, we like it, we want to dive deeper, go take a look at products, prices, see if it makes sense, see if they like it or not. So we'll go to the product page next. We've got some interesting ideas there, but optimize your homepage so that people can take a next step. I'll show you a couple of more examples that we've done. Like in this case, I really like the fact that you have actionable categories, you have contrasting CTAs, you have great copy. So it's kind of a mix of some of the ideas we've already spoken about. The other one is thinking mobile first. So the whole idea here is we have a lot of channel partners, which are essentially agencies that develop sites. And what we see them doing wrong sometimes is when they are setting up a shop for a client, setting up a new store, they stick to building a site on web and then optimize it for the phone, right? We've been advocating, and we really push our customers to ask their designers and agencies to flip that upside down, to build for mobile, build purely for mobile, forget about desktop entirely if that's what it takes. And you will also see this trend in your website traffic. Naturally, if you're a brand which has maybe a configurator or if you're doing custom products of some kind, might not be relevant for you. But I think one of the things that this will allow you to do is prioritize your experience for things that you feel matter the most to the customer versus as the least. And a great way to do that is also run surveys on your site to ask customers what they like and dislike. So that's always customers first, right? So you've got to ask them. Moving further, a chat goes a long way, but apart from, I've kind of spoken about allowing shoppers to take a next step. You could achieve that with a chat. You could achieve that with wizards. You could achieve that in many different ways. And I'll also show you, really solid point which connects to this next. But the intention is, especially for personal care products, we've seen users, trust plays a massive role. And what conversations with brand in the form of a chat, or even if it is in the form of an interactive experience like a wizard or a quiz, it essentially makes the user feel that they are front and center. Customers don't buy features, they don't buy prices, they don't buy deals, they buy emotions, right? So a deal, essentially, for example, the reason discounts work is because they inspire the emotion of great deal. I really want to grab hold of that. And I know how many things I've bought just because they were on sale, right? So, and I think it kind of goes an extremely long way if you dive deeper into what your customers are thinking and then craft a journey around that. So the other idea I wanted to make sure I talk about is the reciprocity bias, which is essentially that if you give somebody something, or if you make somebody do something, they'll kind of do the next level of that commitment as well. So generally speaking, you don't want to ask somebody for their house keys before you've made friends with them. Example, but the idea is, if you, for example, make them take a quiz, they'd be willing to do more later, and that will allow them, and then you can essentially kind of take it one step at a time. An example that I can show you of a wizard, for example, that we created for a customer that do phone repair parts, in this case, is this one. So if you look at the homepage here, you have your primary categories and then no images. Because of the kind of product this is, their focus is to make sure the customer just goes to the next step. So you can obviously go down, look at value prop, look at testimonials and whatnot. But if you're looking for a screen for an Apple iPhone 14 Pro, maybe it's going to take you straight to the product, no questions asked. And I think that's what I'm trying to say with, kind of having customers, take the first step, do the first thing, and then kind of, kind of go from there. Moving further, I want to talk about product page. I'll jump right in. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. But I'll try and address them as much as I can. With the product page, I already kind of gave you the biggest nugget that I wanted to give you. I'm sorry, I keep looking to the right because I'm in New York. It's a beautiful day today. It was really bad, and it was raining yesterday, but it looks great today and super sunny. So if you're in New York, I'm sure you're happy as well. But yeah, so if you look at the storytelling around product page, as I said, if you don't tell your customers a story, someone else will. And you've got to make sure that you're able to do that front and center and in the first two folds of the website. And the easiest way to do that is, playing with your copy a little bit. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on copy today, but purely around copy, something as simple as unusual spellings, bringing in numbers, etc., really, really works. So I think it would go a long way if you could rethink the way you're doing things with just the most basic copy you're doing on your product page or anything that leads up to the product page, right? So moving further, design really matters. So for example, what you see here is a really bold design. It's of course kombucha, and you are looking at strawberries, so the whole page is pink. So I can share a few brands. I'll actually add them to this document. Drink Hydrant is one of them, and there are a few more. But especially if you are a brand, that you're a consumer brand that has a sort of hard-hitting product and a very competitive market like these people, you really want to make sure that you stand out, because this completely transforms the way people look at you. If you see there's a theme that we are following here. If you look at the kind of brands we've picked to kind of talk about it today, which is why our webinar is kind of special today. Generally, we talk about these hacks and tricks which you can actually find anywhere else. Our blog is full of them, and they're very interesting. I encourage you to go through our content and sign up for our newsletter, because we dole out really solid nuggets each week, and all of them is useful, immediately usable information. So I really encourage you to do that. But if you look at what we're trying to do here is creating zones on the page. So you've got a light brown slash, skin color, and then you've got the uh, creates, makes consuming the content on the page extremely easy. And the other thing that's happening here, if you see, is we are disclosing information much more slower than you would do on a product page generally. Because generally what you see is you have the product on one side, you have the content on the other side. And the problem with that is you have too many things. So you have the product name, price, it's running on a sale, you buy it in the next few minutes, we'll do it. There's an add to cart button, there are reviews, number of people who've bought it. There are just so many things that keep coming up on product pages in just a single fold that it dilutes the value your product kind of gives, right? In this case, really simple: lip balm, protect your pout with all the natural lip balm. So I think the idea here is to focus on what matters most and then leave the rest, for your second fold. So this is counterintuitive. Be careful when you do this. Always also take a look at heat maps, scroll maps to see if your customers are committed enough to go to, the second, third, fourth, fifth fold. This is, I'm not saying you're playing with fire, but it's pretty close. Product page is the most important page on your site. Experimentation is the key. Don't just make changes and wait for conversion rates to change. I meet businesses all the time that where my first question to them is, what have you done about your conversion rate so far? And what I hear from them is, hey, we made this and this change on our website, and then nothing changed. And I said, okay, did you experiment? Did you A/B test? And the answer is no. I said, okay, how did you know that you need to make this change? They said, they look nice and our competitor does it, so please don't do that. It's probably hurting your website. You don't know what works till you know it works, right? And you want to make sure you are A/B testing and experimenting with everything. The next piece is, visual cues on hero images. So some images, some products really stand out. You've got to make sure you use copy well. If you, for example, look at this is a great implementation of how to use an image that gets the most attention. If you look at the product, that image or that product is the most famous product for this company, gets a lot of traction, and that's exactly where we decided to place the copy for what's almost gone or is low on stock. And this is a limited edition, so it says for good, and it kind of has a nice play to it. If you see, some of the best brands do this and they don't do some of those timers, etc. This is another way to bring in urgency without having to do timers. Price anchoring is another key fact. So if you look at for example, in this case, where this idea or this thought came from is very simply the fact that businesses underplay this price reduction, sort of the saving that you're kind of getting when you buy products. Generally speaking, instead of making it a given for the customer that this product is $298, it always sells at $238. You've got to make sure that when you're doing that, you are doing it in a way that that makes them feel like they are actually getting a special deal. More often than not, we see websites doing, it was $199/$129 now, and over weeks it would remain. I know it's risky to fluctuate your prices and do that, but instead of focusing on that, focus on the experience of how you deliver the $199/$129. In this case, this is a pre-sale/pre-order offer, so it's easier to do for them. Of course, that's kind of a more straightforward implementation, but specific to your brand, I would want you to kind of go back to the drawing board and make price a very important factor of your product page. Think about it this way. If I was to, for example, show you a jacket, a nice leather jacket, something that you really wanted, maybe a black or a brown leather jacket with the right colored zippers, really good quality, what is the first thought that would come to your mind if you were to buy it? The first thing that matters to you when you want to buy something is the price. Of course, if you're super rich, you don't care, I don't know what to say, but I'm sure even for somebody who has unlimited money, they would want to look at a commodity and then immediately think, how much is it, right? Of course, apart from the fact that they would want to touch it and feel it and make sure it's good, it's a good product. And that's exactly why you want to pay that much attention to how your price is presented, how it looks, what people think about it. right? I'll just take a question. Manal, I'll get back to you. I have seen your message. We have a bunch of great ideas here. Okay, so I think there was a question on the Q&A, I believe. Let me just bring it up. I think maybe it's gone. How can we start A/B testing was the question. I'll come back to that and answer that question. If you removed it, please put it back in the Q&A so that I can read the whole question. I didn't read the whole thing. So this is another interesting one. You've got a members only and a pro price. Have you booked a flight ticket with Spirit Airlines ever? I don't know what you think about the airline, but their price strategy is a masterclass in how brands can have people pay more or convert more on the back of paying less, etc. So I would recommend you go and check how Spirit Airlines does their pricing. There's a really long article on that, and I'll also add that to this document. But there's a reason why airlines like Spirit have, for example, I mean, there's a lot of memes around them, and I know that, but they have made it to the top 6-7 airlines in the country, in the US, because of this pricing strategy that they follow. So the question was, how would you suggest to start A/B testing on product page, especially with low conversion volume? Should we pick one element to remove change? So irrespective of low or high volume, you should always just test one thing at once. You never want to test two things, unless, of course, if you're doing that for two completely different segment of customers. Because if you test two or more, how do you know what works? So always test just one element. The other thing about volume of conversion or just traffic, yes, you need to have a critical mass, a level at beyond which A/B testing or experimentation becomes relevant. We have an A/B testing statistical significance calculator on our own website. You can also Google Bayesian A/B testing sample size calculator. What that allows you to do is figure out how much volume is enough. But generally speaking, if you are a business that is doing upwards of 10,000 in traffic transactions, you're good. Now that's a very low bar, but it's only possible if you set up the test in the right way and you set up the test for the right parts of the funnel. So it's very subjective. Also, whoever put this question, their name is probably not coming up, but we would be happy to kind of take a look at your own volume and suggest how you could set something up. Highlight good reviews. I think this is something that kind of is underrated, but more often than not, the reason I wanted to add this is I see websites adding review tools like Yotpo, etc., and then just forgetting about it. Please don't do that. You will have to, if you look at the click-through rate for the percentage of people that actually go and read those reviews, it's very low. So what you want to do is pick 3 or 4 reviews from your customers, which will actually corroborate the story you're telling as a brand, or tell the story you want to tell as a brand in the form of those testimonials. If you can do that, that's a home run, because then customers are hearing the story you want to tell from other customers, and that's brilliant. The other thing you want to do, which is not actually here in the bare minerals example, is make the review or the testimonial look as real as possible. For example, what you see here is the 5-star review, customer name 2 months ago, and then everything else. But what you want to make sure you also do is add a picture of the customer, an actual date when they transacted, and the exact product that they bought. You can add that to the testimonial design. I'll add a couple of examples to this document before we send it out, but do it extremely well so that it looks really real, and then add a green check mark which says it's a verified purchase customer, so that it doesn't look like you're making it up. Know that, so customers, you are a customer for some other brand, right? So everybody knows that. Use urgency labels, on product images. Final sale, for example, in this case, what you're also seeing, for example, is in stock, ships in 1 or 2 days, in home delivery, etc. So there are some sort of some information that we have relating to shipping. But the other thing you're also doing is you are offsetting the delay, all the time that it takes for you to deliver, set up, do all of those things, with saying, hey, 25% off, this is the final sale. It's never going to happen again, at least in this year or in this season. And you want to make sure you kind of obviously, bring that in as well as possible. We are down to our last three ideas, folks. As I said, I'll try and gift some time back to everybody who's attending, which is why I wanted to kind of do this, at a slightly faster pace. If you want me to slow down, please let me know. And of course, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Unboring navigational cues. It's okay to make. So if you look at the arrows on this website, so if we go back to my leather jacket example, what was the key point that I made? I said if you have a great leather jacket, something you've really wanted, black or brown, with the kind of zippers you want, it has the right collar, it has the right pockets. It's not a bomber, so you've got nice cuffs, etc. So as you can imagine, I'm into leather jackets. One of the things that's extremely, extremely important is all of this information that I gave you verbally is something that people will want to gauge even before they go to the price. So I said, after you've liked the product, after you're sure you want to buy something, the most important, part is first convincing them about the product, right? I'll give you an example. I was at the Adidas Original store just recently. I saw shorts, and these shorts were really good. I really liked them, but they didn't have it in my size, right? So I wasn't able to figure out if they will look good on me or if they were for me. But that's what product images do for you. So you want to make sure, if you have great product images, you want to make sure they're very easy for customers to access. You want to make sure they actually access them. So what these arrows here are doing is they actually, in fact, it's an image. I'm sure you really want to click them. That's what they do. So make arrows that people really want to click, even if it's something that's really basic. If customers that will view 4 or more images of a product convert significantly higher, that view just one. Okay, so that's an insight I can give you straight from the data that we see for our customers. Moving further, more buying options. So I think this is kind of pretty straightforward. We were working, we met a subscription brand yesterday that offers, you could buy a 6-month or a 12-month subscription. After a lot of analysis, we've encouraged them to do, 1 month and 3-month subscription as well. And the conversion rate is supposed to blow up for them, depending on the projections we've created. So open up many options in which people can buy from you, help them find a good deal, give them ways in which they can get your product, significantly more simply. Of course, this is very specific to the kind of industry you're from. But for something like fashion, bundling really works. So if you could shop a look, like I know a lot of fashion companies that have done shop the look, by selling the denim along with it. But there's really no incentive for me to buy the two together, right? There's really no reason for me to do that. And I kind of find that painful. For example, everybody who sells a card holder, like a wallet card holder, should sell a money clip with it. I don't know why they don't do that. But it's something that will almost always go together. And if you can club that up and give them a deal, I think it'll fly really well. To our final idea, I cannot emphasize enough on how big a role chat plays on your website. I am somebody who values human interactions a lot, which is why we do these webinars. Because we know if we just make a video and put it on YouTube, nobody's going to watch it. But if we bring you here and we do it in the form of a conversation with chat, with questions, with everything else that we have going on, it would really work extremely well. So I would say have real humans doing chat for you. But if you can't, make sure your AI chatbot or whatever you're using is set up in a way that it sounds like a human. If you call your chatbot a bot, you can be sure people don't want to talk to you. Do you want to talk to a robot? Are you really interested in doing that as just an individual? You're not, right? And that's where I think human in loop automation, human in loop technology really works. And I think the final takeaway that I want to make sure that you have from our conversation today, and then I'll leave 3 to 4 minutes for questions, is simply that your customers are not buying prices, they're not buying products, they're not buying deals, they're not buying options, they're not buying your competitor's product because of whatever reason. They're buying feelings. That's the single most important thing that matters. It's the emotion, your product, your price, how you ship, how you deal with them, how your shipping works, all of that brought together. What emotions can you inspire? And emotions will guide behavior. When they behave in a certain way, they leave a lot of nuggets, a lot of data behind them on what they interacted with, what they looked at, how far they went in their journey. And that data is a gold mine for you to find what out of your home and product page you need to optimize. I really hope some of the ideas we've shared here are able to, sort of help you alter that behavior by altering the emotion. So I hope that makes sense. Remember that. And of course, yeah, we're open for questions. Happy to answer anything in specific. And I was talking about a giveaway. One of the things we're going to do in this webinar is, if you are interested in a thorough tear down of your website, and make sure that we kind of look at your home product and also rest of the pages to figure out where the journey is failing, we are happy to do that. I'm going to leave my email ID in the chat. So you can write to me directly, or you'll get a post-webinar email. Just reply to that. It reaches me, and I'll make sure that we jump on that. I'll try and be there myself, but I'm in transit at the moment. So if I'm not, I'll make sure somebody from the team who is an actual CRO expert takes a look at it, and we'll do it for absolutely for free. So no cost for the tear down. Please never pay for website audits. Just come to us and we'll do it for you. We really, we're passionate about what we do, so we'd be happy to take a look at it. Okay, so I have a couple of more questions here. Can we get a copy of the presentation? Yes, love it that you liked the examples. We will share these with you. How do we decide on which element on the product page to start testing? Data. So, sign up with a Hotjar, or we have, for example, our own heat map product. So we obviously look at the kind of things that people are interacting with. Here's what you want to do. Look at your device split. So the conversion rate and product page interactions for device, for desktop and mobile separately. Then split that by channel. See how organic visitors interact differently from paid visitors. See how it works. And then if you have a visitor recording tool, and these tools are really cheap, that you don't really need to spend a lot of money, but that will instantly tell you what journey people take. You can actually see visitor recordings for people who bought and people who did not buy. And that is of course going to be a lot of good information. The other thing is, you could run a survey on your product page, an exit intent survey. So the moment somebody is leaving, ask them why are they leaving. Leave the top 4 things, 5 things you feel it could be, and then leave a text box for them to kind of tell you. Would you give your opinion on above the fold of a website? So here's the deal. I ran a sales team for a long time, and one of the things we used to coach salespeople on was for cold calls, for when you're calling someone versus when you're meeting someone in person. And let me ask this as a question. You can feel free to put your answer in the chat. How many seconds does it take for someone to judge you, or about who you are, what you sound like, what you look, basis what you look like when you meet them? How many seconds do you feel it takes? I'll give you a second. It takes just 1 second. So, and on the phone, when they're trying to call you, it takes 4 seconds. So that's why my video is on, so that you take 1 second to judge me. But that's the thing. The first fold of your website, you have 1 second, right? That's how I like to put it. What impression can you make? Great brands do a fantastic job of keeping you because they have great imagery. But apart from that, they do a good job with copy and storytelling. And I'm happy to take a look at your site separately. We are happy to kind of take a look at and audit your site. In fact, buy only the first fold. We'll do the entire site. So please, just write to me on my email or reply to the email you get after this webinar, and I'll be happy to jump on that. Any other questions, folks? Happy to answer anything that you might have. We'll give it a minute, otherwise we'll conclude. Okay, perfect. No questions. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you for spending time with us. I'm glad this was of value. I'm glad I was able to share ideas that made sense. And we'll have another one. We have one every 2 or 3 weeks. So look out for emails from us and sign up for the newsletter. I'm guaranteeing you'll not be disappointed. If you're disappointed, I'll unsubscribe you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Have a good one.